When this episode first aired 20 years ago, I wasn't blown away by it. I thought Rose was a bit of an idiot for saving her father's life and risking destroying the entire space-time continuum. Watching it now, I can understand this a lot better. When you've lost your parents, the first thing you would do if you had a time machine would be to go back and see them again. So from that perspective, it's a hugely emotional episode. It's not perfect, but it hits a lot harder than it did first time round. The opening TARDIS scene is quite short, but it does make an impact as it's been a few episodes since we've seen it. And it's beautifully shot with the Doctor and Rose having an intimate conversation in the middle of this vast darkened space. So it is very effective, although they do cut to the credits before anything has actually happened. I guess leaving it till later would have just broken up the story before it had time to get going. The Doctor taking Rose to her parents' wedding is fair enough, but he should probably have drawn the line at letting her watch her father die. He's a Time Lord, he should have known that's a really bad idea. Once Rose saves her father's life, the Doctor is angrier at her than he's ever been before. His disappointment in her is palpable, and it comes right after Adam did something similar, which shows that the whole arc of the season has been quite carefully plotted out. This is the absolute low point of their relationship, signified by him demanding she return his TARDIS key. And he just walks off and leaves her there in 1987, which will surely do even more damage to the timeline. Hopefully he would have come back for her later, but you never know. And there's a very surreal scene where he opens the TARDIS door and it's just an empty box inside. We've gotten so used to it being bigger on the inside that it's very jarring when it's not. Rose gets to know her father for the first time and realises he's not the saint her mother made him out to be. Just a flawed wheeler-dealer with an eye for the ladies. She still loves him though, and Billie Piper and Sean Dingwall are very believable as father and daughter, despite only being 12 years apart. The monsters here are known as the Reapers, and they are probably the weakest part of the episode. They're probably more effective when we don't see them. The scene where young Mickey is playing in a playground full of people, and everyone around him vanishes one by one, is very effective. Sadly, the CGI used for the creatures looks very outdated now, and it could probably do with a modern sprucing up like they do in the Blu-ray collections. The creatures aren't named, but they do look a lot like I imagine the Vortisaurs in the Big Finish audios, such as Storm Warning. They are also pterodactyl-like creatures who live in the time vortex and feed off paradoxes. Apparently they didn't look anything like this in the script. They were more like Grim Reapers, so maybe someone in the visual effects department was a fan of Big Finish. Once everyone's gathered in the church, the Doctor and Rose reconcile, but then Rose touches her younger self, which we know is a bad idea from ordering undead, and the Doctor ends up dead. Pete realises he has to sacrifice his life in order to put everything right, so he gets to be a hero after all. And the Tyler family saying goodbye to each other is another highly emotional scene. It really gets you invested in these characters, so when they come back in season 2, you're rooting for them to get a happy ending. At the time this was broadcast, Paul Cornell was best known for writing some of the best New Adventures novels. It's possible he was selected to write this one because of the emotional depth he brought to the companions. Time Worm Revelation goes into Ace's backstory, as well as being set in a church. And Love and War establishes Benny's tragic backstory with the apparent deaths of her parents. So this is kind of similar territory. And of course, the next time he wrote for the show, it was a straight adaptation of one of his novels, but we'll get there eventually. The DVD has a 12-minute cut-down episode of Doctor Who Confidential. For once, it's all about the episode rather than trying to follow a theme. We see them filming scenes in the church. Billie Piper and Sean Dingwall talk about the relationship between their characters. The designer talks about the various stages the Reaper designs went through, and Will Coyne talks about how the visual effects were added to the live shots, and Paul Cornell and Sean Dingwall talk about Pete becoming a hero. On the commentary track, Phil Collinson tells us about the filming locations. Paul Cornell describes some of the scenes that were cut, and how Pete was based on his father. Billie Piper watches the episode for the first time, and we hear her reactions. And Sean Dingwall gives his memories as well. Plus they talk about Pete coming back in season 2. I don't know if that had been announced at the time, or if it was an exclusive. Overall, the emotional storyline is well written and strongly acted. It falls down a bit when you get to the monster scenes, but it's still a great episode, 8.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my reviews, then please consider joining my Patreon, where I review 8th Doctor audios every week, and 7th Doctor novels every month. And next month I'll be tackling Paul Cornell's first novel, Time Worm Revelation. On this channel, my next video should be my review of The War Between the Land and the Sea, episodes 3 and 4, which should be up on Wednesday. As for my Eccleston rewatch, that's going to be going on hold over the Christmas and New Year period. Next Monday will be my special Christmas episode, and the week after that I'll do my end of year look back. So my review of The Empty Child and The Doctor Dances will go up the first Monday in January. If you like the sound of any of that, then please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.